What if the person you trusted least turned out to be the one who saved your family? In the opulent halls of a Houston mansion, Robert Harlan, a hardened oil tycoon, stormed toward his black maid, Sarah Jenkins, his face twisted in fury. "Thief!" he bellowed over the intercom, grabbing her wrist and yanking her to the floor in front of shocked staff. Pain shot through her arm as he hurled racial slurs, accusing her of stealing from the safe he'd deliberately left open as a trap. Humiliated and bruised, Sarah stood her ground, her eyes steady amid the chaos. But beneath the betrayal lay a shocking truth, one that would unravel decades of prejudice, reveal a hidden bond between their families, and force Robert to his knees in regret. As secrets surface and lives transform, you'll see how one act of kindness can shatter walls of suspicion. If this story moves you, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and comment below where you're watching from. Who knows, someone nearby might be tuning in too. The sun hung low over the dusty streets of Houston's South Side, casting long shadows across the cracked sidewalk as Sarah Jenkins trudged home from another long day. Her feet ached in the worn-out sneakers she'd patched with duct tape last week. At 55, her body carried the weight of 3 decades, scrubbing marble floors and polishing silver for families who barely noticed her name. But Sarah noticed everything. The faint scent of lemon polish clinging to her uniform, the way her hands, rough and veined like old leather, trembled slightly as she unlocked her apartment door. Inside, the air was thick with the aroma of simmering collard greens. Her mother, Miss Etta, sat hunched in the faded armchair by the window, a quilt draped over her frail knees. "That you, baby?" Etta's voice cracked, weak from the cough that had lingered since winter. Sarah forced a smile, setting down her tote bag filled with leftover cleaning supplies. "Yes, Mama. Let me get your medicine." She moved to the kitchen, measuring out pills with precise care. The counter was cluttered with bills, electric, medical, the latest from the church community center where Sarah volunteered every Sunday. Her mind raced. How much longer can I stretch this paycheck? The kids are grown, but they still need help with loans. And Mama, Lord, give me strength. She glanced at the photo on the fridge, her 2 children, beaming in cap and gown at graduation. She'd missed sleep, skipped meals to make that happen. No regrets, though, just quiet pride. Sarah stirred the pot, the steam rising like a prayer. Her reflection in the window caught her eye, deep brown skin etched with lines from years of biting back words, eyes that held stories she rarely told. Folks at the big houses called her reliable, but she knew the undertone, invisible until something went missing. They see the maid, not the woman, she thought, wiping her hands on her apron. But Sarah saw them, the lonely wives, the spoiled kids, the bosses who barked orders to mask their own emptiness. That evening, after tucking Etta into bed, Sarah sank onto the couch with her Bible. The pages fell open to Proverbs. A good name is better than riches. She traced the words, her lips moving silently. I've kept my name clean all these years. No shortcuts, no stealing glances at what ain't mine. Memories flickered, her grandmother's tales of sharecropping days, the unyielding dignity in the face of hardship. Sarah had inherited that spine of steel, wrapped in a soft-spoken demeanor. The phone buzzed, a text from the agency. New job tomorrow, Harlan Estate, big client. Be sharp. Sarah's brow furrowed. Harlan, the oil baron whose name echoed in Houston's elite circles. Rumors swirled, tough, suspicious, quick to fire. But work was work. She ironed her uniform, the steam hissing like a warning. Another house, another chance to prove I'm more than they think. Her heart quickened with a mix of dread and resolve. The pay could cover Etta's next doctor's visit, maybe even donate to the church's food drive. As night fell, Sarah knelt by her bed, whispering her evening prayer. Lord, guide my steps. Keep me honest in a world that tests the soul. She climbed under the thin blanket, the city's hum fading into dreams of open fields from her childhood. Free, unburdened. But reality waited at dawn. The bus ride to the suburbs, the grand gates of the Harlan mansion looming like judgment. Morning came too soon. Sarah boarded the bus, clutching her lunch in a paper bag. Faces around her mirrored her own. Tired workers heading to serve the wealthy. She stared out the window at the changing landscape, from modest homes to manicured lawns and towering estates. One day, maybe I'll have a place like that for Mama, she mused, though she knew it was a fleeting thought. Her life was service, not splendor. Arriving at the Harlan gates, Sarah buzzed the intercom. A gruff voice granted entry. The driveway stretched like a challenge, lined with oaks dripping Spanish moss. She straightened her uniform, smoothing a stray curl under her cap. Head high, Sarah. You've faced worse. The door opened to a vast foyer, crystal chandeliers glinting overhead. A stern butler eyed her. You're the new help. Mr. Harlan expects perfection. Sarah nodded, her voice steady. Yes, sir. I'm here to work. She hung her coat, rolling up her sleeves. The house smelled of old money, polished wood, and faint cigar smoke. As she began dusting the library shelves, her fingers grazed leather-bound books she'd never read. Knowledge for the rich, she thought wryly. But Sarah had her own wisdom, earned in the trenches of life. By midday, sweat beaded on her forehead as she scrubbed the kitchen counters. The other staff whispered warnings. Mr. Harlan watches everything. Cameras everywhere. Sarah paused, glancing at a blinking light in the corner. Watching me like I'm a criminal already. But she pushed on, humming a gospel tune under her breath. Amazing grace filled her mind, a shield against the unease. Lunch was a quick sandwich in the staff room. She checked her phone. A message from her daughter. Love you, Mom. The church needs volunteers this weekend. Sarah smiled faintly. That's my girl, she replied. I'll be there. Giving back was her anchor, even when her own cup ran low. Afternoon brought more tasks. Laundering linens, vacuuming endless carpets. Her wrist twinged from an old injury, but she ignored it. Pain's just part of the job. As the sun dipped, Sarah gathered her things, the mansion's silence pressing in. Little did she know, eyes were already on her, suspicious, plotting. That night, back home, Sarah massaged lotion into her hands, the scent of lavender soothing her aches. Etta stirred. Hard day, child. Sarah kissed her forehead. Just another day, Mama. But God's got us. She turned off the light, her mind drifting to tomorrow. The Harlan estate waited, a powder keg of wealth and wariness. In the quiet, Sarah's thoughts turned inward. Why do they always assume the worst? Because of my skin? My station? She shook it off. Tomorrow would come, and she'd meet it with the same unyielding grace. Unbeknownst to her, the test was already brewing, a trap set in the shadows of privilege. High above the sprawling oil fields of Texas, the Harlan mansion perched like a crown on the horizon, its windows glinting under the relentless sun. Robert Harlan leaned back in his leather armchair, the surveillance room's dim lights casting harsh shadows across his cragged face. At 72, his once sharp features had hardened into a perpetual scowl, etched by decades of boardroom battles and backstabbings. His fingers drummed on the oak desk, eyes flicking between a dozen monitors that captured every corner of his empire. The manicured lawns, the gleaming kitchen, the vaulted study where stacks of files hid fortunes won and lost. He sipped black coffee, bitter as his memories. Trust no one, he thought, the mantra echoing from his father's dying words. Robert had built his oil dynasty from scratch, drilling into the earth like he'd drilled into deals. But betrayals had scarred him deep. Partners who'd siphoned profits, executives who'd leaked secrets, each one a knife in the back. Now, in retirement's uneasy grip, he guarded his world with unyielding vigilance. Cameras hummed softly, feeding live feeds to his screens. "They're all the same," he muttered, zooming in on the new maid. Sarah, was it? Black woman, mid-50s, moving with that quiet efficiency he distrusted most. Robert's lips curled. He'd seen her type before, hard-working on the surface, but who knew what simmered beneath? His prejudices ran deep, rooted in a childhood of segregated schools and whispered warnings about those people taking what wasn't theirs. "Hire 'em cheap, watch 'em close," his old man used to say. Robert chuckled dryly, setting down his mug. The agency had vetted her, sure. Clean record, glowing references from other Houston elites. But references meant nothing. He'd learned that the hard way. He stood, joints creaking like rusted rig pumps, and paced to the window overlooking the estate. The Texas heat shimmered off the driveway, where Sarah's bus had dropped her off that morning. She's in my house now, touching my things. The thought gnawed at him. Isolation had become his armor, his wife long gone, kids distant in their own lives. Evelyn, his mother, lingered in a nursing home across town, her calls ignored amid his suspicions of gold-digging staff there too. Family's just another vulnerability, he grumbled inwardly. Back at the desk, Robert pulled up her file on his computer. "Sarah Jenkins," he read aloud, voice gravelly from years of cigars. Photos showed a woman with kind eyes, but he saw only potential threats. Church volunteer? Probably a front. He leaned forward, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Time for a test, the kind that separated the loyal from the leeches. He'd done it before. Leave valuables out, watch the feeds, catch them in the act. Fired 3 maids last year alone. He glanced at the safe in his study feed, its door slightly ajar, as per his instructions to the butler. Inside, bundles of cash, $50,000, crisp and tempting, sat exposed on the shelf. If she's honest, she'll report it. If not. His eyes narrowed. The trap was set, simple and foolproof. He'd rigged an extra camera inside the safe, hidden among the stacks. People like her always crack under temptation. It's in their blood, he thought, the bias twisting like a thorn in his mind. Robert settled back, crossing his arms. The monitors flickered. Sarah dusting the library, her movements deliberate, almost rhythmic. He zoomed in, studying her face for any flicker of greed. Come on, take the bait. A smirk played on his lips. This wasn't just about money. It was control, reaffirmation that his world was secure. Betrayals had taught him. Vulnerability invited ruin. The phone rang. His lawyer, droning about estate taxes. Robert half listened, eyes glued to the screen. "Yeah, handle it," he barked, hanging up. Solitude suited him. No one to question his methods. But deep down, a flicker of unease stirred. What if she's different? He shoved it aside. Nah, they're all the same. As afternoon waned, Robert poured a scotch, the amber liquid swirling in the glass. The mansion's silence amplified his thoughts. Echoes of empty halls, ghosts of deals gone sour. He toasted the monitors. To vigilance. Sarah appeared again, heading toward the study. His pulse quickened. Showtime. He watched her pause at the door, cloth in hand. See it yet? The safe loomed in the frame. The door cracked just enough. Robert's grip tightened on the glass. Whatever happened next would confirm his worldview, or shatter it. But in his mind, the outcome was already written. Dusk painted the room in oranges and reds, the oil fields beyond glowing like embers. Robert exhaled, the weight of his suspicions pressing heavy. One way or another, she'll prove me right. Little did he know, the trap he'd set might ensnare him instead. Sarah's cloth glided over the study's mahogany desk, picking up invisible dust particles that danced in the afternoon sunlight streaming through the tall windows. The room felt heavier than the others, bookshelves lined with leather tomes, a Persian rug muffling her footsteps, and that safe in the corner, its door slightly ajar like a forgotten whisper. She paused, mid-swipe, her eyes narrowing. That's not right, she thought, heart skipping a beat. Bundles of cash peeked out, crisp edges catching the light. Mr. Harlan must have left it open by mistake. I should tell someone. She set the cloth down, reaching for her phone to message the butler. But before her fingers could tap the screen, a crackle echoed from the intercom overhead. "Thief!" Robert's voice boomed, sharp as a whip crack. Sarah froze, her breath catching in her throat. The door burst open. Robert storming in like a Texas thunderstorm, his face flushed red, veins bulging on his neck. "I knew it! You couldn't keep your hands off, could you?" Sarah stepped back, palms up. "Mr. Harlan, Save it!" He lunged forward, grabbing her wrist with a grip like iron. Pain flared up her arm as he yanked her away from the safe, her body twisting awkwardly. She stumbled, heels scraping the rug, and crashed to the floor with a thud that echoed in her bones. Her elbow hit first, sending a jolt through her side. "Lord, help me," she thought, biting back a cry. The staff, 2 gardeners peering from the hallway, the cook frozen in the doorway, watched in stunned silence. Robert towered over her, pointing a trembling finger. "I left that safe open on purpose to test you. And look, money's gone. People like you always have sticky fingers. Black, poor, thinking you can take what's not yours." His words landed like slaps, laced with venom that stung deeper than the bruise forming on her wrist. People like you. The phrase burned in her mind, an echo of 100 slights she'd swallowed over the years. Sarah pushed herself up slowly, cradling her arm, her uniform rumpled and dusted with floor lint. "I didn't touch it, sir. The door was open when I came in. I was about to report it." Her voice stayed steady, though inside a storm raged, humiliation mixing with anger, hot and unspoken. How dare he? After all my years of honest work, he laughed, a bark without humor. "Report it? Yeah, right. I've got cameras everywhere. They'll show the truth." He waved at the blinking red light in the ceiling corner, his eyes gleaming with triumph. The staff shifted uncomfortably, whispers rippling like wind through the hall. "She's done," one murmured. Robert spun to them. "You all heard it. This is what happens when you let in outsiders. Get back to work." Sarah stood there, the room spinning slightly from the fall. Her wrist throbbed, already swelling under her sleeve. "Breathe, Sarah. Don't let him see you break." She met his gaze, chin lifted just enough to show defiance without words. The cash in the safe mocked her, untouched by her hands, but now a weapon against her soul. Robert slammed the safe shut, the clang reverberating like a judge's gavel. "You're fired, and I'm calling the cops. Theft's a crime, especially from a man like me." He pulled out his phone, dialing with deliberate slowness, his smirk widening. The staff scattered, doors closing softly behind them, leaving Sarah alone with her accuser. She didn't beg. Instead, she straightened her apron, ignoring the ache. "I've been called worse, survived worse." But the public shaming cut deep, the way he'd yelled it for all to hear, branding her before proof. "Thief. Like you." The words looped in her head, fueling a quiet fire. Robert paced, phone to his ear. "Yes, officer. I'd like to report a theft." His voice trailed as he glanced back, expecting tears or pleas. But Sarah just stood, eyes calm, waiting. He thinks he's won. But truth has a way of rising. The mansion's grandeur felt mocking now. Crystal vases gleaming, oil paintings staring down in judgment. Sarah's mind flashed to her mother, to the church folks who'd vouch for her. This ain't the end. But as sirens wailed faintly in the distance, the weight pressed harder. The trap had sprung, and she was caught in its jaws. Robert hung up, crossing his arms. "They'll be here soon. Anything to say?" Sarah shook her head, her silence a shield. Inside, though, questions swirled. Why me? Why always assume the worst? The bruise on her wrist pulsed, a reminder of his rough hands. Violence in his grip, hate in his words. Minutes stretched like hours. The butler reappeared, avoiding her eyes. "Sir, perhaps check the cameras first." Robert waved him off. "No need. I know what I saw." But doubt flickered in his eyes, brief as a shadow. He turned away, staring out the window at his empire. Sarah gathered her things slowly, each movement deliberate. I'll walk out with my head high. The front door loomed, freedom and uncertainty beyond. As she stepped toward it, Robert's voice halted her. "Don't think you'll work in this town again." She didn't reply, just kept walking, the echo of his accusation trailing like smoke. Outside, the Texas heat enveloped her, but chills ran down her spine. The gates clanged shut behind. What now? She rubbed her wrist, wincing. The bus stop waited, a long ride home to face Etta's questions. But deep down, resolve hardened. This ain't over. Not by a long shot. Sarah's bus rumbled away from the Harlan estate, the gates shrinking in the rearview mirror like a bad dream fading. She sat rigid in the back seat, her wrist cradled in her lap, the skin already blooming purple under the sleeve. Pain throbbed with each jolt of the road, but it was the echo of Robert's words that stung sharper. "Thief. People like you." She stared out the window at the blurring suburbs, her reflection ghosting over the glass, eyes steady, jaw set. "Not today, devil. You won't break me." Home greeted her with the familiar creak of the door. Miss Etta looked up from her armchair, knitting needles paused mid-stitch. "Early today, baby. Something wrong?" Sarah forced a smile, tucking her arm behind her back. "Just a short day, Mama. Let me fix supper." She moved to the kitchen, movements deliberate, hiding the wince as she chopped onions. Can't let her worry. She's got enough on her plate. The knife sliced clean, each cut a small act of control in a day spun wild. As collards simmered, Sarah slipped into the bathroom, running cool water over her wrist. The mirror fogged slightly, her face softening in the steam. "I didn't take that money." Lord knows. She replayed the scene. The open safe, the booming voice, the yank that sent her sprawling. Humiliation burned hot in her chest, but anger simmered beneath. Quiet, contained. He thinks I'm nothing, but I've built a life on nothing. She bandaged the bruise with gauze from the medicine cabinet, fingers steady despite the ache. Back in the living room, Etta's eyes followed her. "You limpin' a bit. What happened?" Sarah sat, exhaling slowly. "The boss accused me of stealing. Grabbed me rough." Etta's face hardened, needles clacking faster. "That Harlan fool? You call the agency?" Sarah nodded. "Tomorrow. But tonight I pray for it." She bowed her head, words flowing soft. "Father, turn this mess to message. Keep my heart clean." Sleep came fitful, dreams tangled with flashing cameras and accusing eyes. Morning light filtered through thin curtains, pulling her awake. Sarah rose early, brewing coffee strong enough to chase the fog. Her phone buzzed. The agency. "Come in first thing." She dressed carefully, choosing her best blouse to hide the bandage. Head high, prove 'em wrong. The bus ride felt longer, her mind turning over options. New job? Or fight this? At the agency office, a sterile room with buzzing fluorescents, the manager leaned back in his chair. "Harlan called. Says you stole. Cops involved? Sarah met his gaze level. No, sir. I didn't touch a thing. Check his cameras. They'll show. He sighed, rubbing his temples. He's powerful. Hard to go against. But something in her calm tone made him pause. All right. I'll demand the footage. Sit tight. Back at the estate, Robert had suspended her, not fired outright. Sarah returned under the guise of collecting her things. The butler nodded curtly, avoiding her eyes. Mr. Harlan's in his office. Stay clear. She nodded, slipping into the staff quarters. But curiosity tugged. She needed answers. Why the trap? What's he hiding? Wandering the halls, cloth in hand as cover, Sarah overheard fragments from Robert's cracked office door. A phone call. Hospital again? Tell Mother I'll handle the bills later. His voice clipped, dismissive. Sarah froze, ear pressed closer. His mama? Sick? The call ended with a slam. She peeked through the sliver, Robert rubbing his forehead, a stack of unopened envelopes on the desk, one marked, Urgent Medical Center. Her heart softened despite the bruise. He doesn't even know how bad it is. Memories of Etta's hospital stay flooded back. The fear, the isolation. Sarah slipped away, mind whirring. In the kitchen, she cleaned the counter near the phone, glancing at the caller ID log. Recent calls from Houston General. Same place Grandma went. She jotted the number discreetly, tucking it into her pocket. Later, alone in the garden shed, pretending to organize tools, Sarah dialed the hospital from her cell. Evelyn Harlan. Yes. Family friend checking in. The nurse's voice was grave. Critical. Heart issues. Bills piling up. Surgery needed soon, but no payment yet. Sarah's breath caught. He's ignoring it? She hung up, staring at the blooming roses outside. Can't let an old lady suffer. But how? Back inside, she passed the study again. The safe loomed, still cracked from yesterday's chaos. Cash inside, untouched. Robert's proof of her guilt. A trap, all right. But maybe for good. Her pulse quickened. No, she wouldn't steal. But observe? Plan? That she could do. Evening fell as Sarah left, gates clanging behind. On the bus, she pulled out the old photo from her wallet. Etta's mother and a white woman, arms linked, smiling in black and white. Grandma's stories. She was my friend, child. Evelyn. Helped us through tough times. Sarah's eyes widened. Evelyn Harlan. Could it be? The connection sparked a thread from past to present. Home again, Sarah tended Etta, mind elsewhere. You quiet tonight, Etta noted. Sarah squeezed her hand. Thinking on forgiveness, Mama, and helping folk who don't deserve it. Etta nodded wisely. That's the Lord's way. That night, Sarah pored over old family albums, confirming the link. The photo matched. Evelyn Young, vibrant beside Grandma in 1950s Texas, friends across the line. And now her son's calling me thief. Irony twisted in her gut. She prayed longer, seeking guidance. Show me the path. Days blurred. Agency stalled on footage. Robert's silence deafening. Sarah volunteered at church, distributing food baskets, her smile masking the storm. But she watched from afar. Discreet calls to the hospital. Updates on Evelyn worsening. Surgery tomorrow. No funds. Desperation crept in. One evening, slipping back to the estate on a forgotten item pretext, Sarah lingered near the office. Robert inside, alone, staring at old photos, Evelyn's face among them. His shoulders slumped, a rare vulnerability. He cares. Buried deep. She retreated, heart conflicted. Accuse me, hurt me. But your mama? I can't ignore that. Resolve hardened. Sarah began piecing a plan. Not theft, but truth. She'd report the open safe officially, demanding the cameras. But first, observe more. He set a trap. Maybe I'll turn it. The bruise faded, but memory lingered. Sarah's quiet strength grew, a hero awakening in the shadows. Robert Harlan slammed the phone down in his surveillance room, the echo bouncing off the walls like a gunshot. His Scotch glass sat empty on the desk, amber residue glinting under the monitor lights. She's gone for now, but not far enough. He rewound the footage for the third time, zooming in on Sarah's face as she left the estate. Chin up, eyes unyielding. No guilt there. Almost looks innocent. But doubt was a luxury he couldn't afford. Betrayals had taught him that. He stood abruptly, pacing the room with heavy steps. The mansion felt too quiet. The staff's whispers hushed since the accusation. They think I'm harsh? Good. Keeps him in line. Robert's mind raced back to his oil days. Rig workers skimming supplies, partners fudging numbers. Everyone's out for themselves. And Sarah? Just another in a long line. His prejudices fueled the fire. Black Maid from the wrong side of town. Probably sent the money to some scheme. He grabbed the intercom mic, voice booming through the halls. All staff to the foyer, now. Footsteps hurried below. The cook wiping flour from her hands. Gardeners shedding dirt from boots. The butler straightening his tie. Robert descended the grand staircase, his presence sucking the air from the room. They assembled in an uneasy semicircle, eyes downcast. "Listen up," he barked, pointing at the study door. "That woman, Jenkins, she's a thief. I caught her red-handed. If any of you helped her, speak now or face the consequences." Silence hung thick. The cook shifted, glancing at the butler. Robert's eyes narrowed. "Nothing? Fine. From now on, extra cameras in every room. I'll review footage daily." He pulled a stack of papers from his pocket. NDAs, thick with legalese. "Sign these. Allows me full access to your phones, emails, everything while on my property. Refuse, and you're out." The staff exchanged looks, but one by one they signed, pins scratching like reluctant confessions. Robert watched with satisfaction, his chest puffing. Control. That's how you win. He singled out the youngest gardener. "You, check the gates. Make sure she doesn't sneak back." The boy nodded, scurrying off. Upstairs, Robert poured another scotch, the burn steadying his nerves. He dialed his golf buddy, Harlan's voice shifting to a smug drawl. "Hey, Frank, you won't believe it. The new maid, black woman, walked right into my trap. Left the safe open, and poof, money gone. They're all the same, huh? Sticky fingers and sob stories." Frank laughed on the line. "Told you, Bob. Can't trust him. Sue her ass." Robert chuckled, leaning back. "Damn right. My prejudices? Spot on." The arrogance swelled, a familiar high. He emailed his lawyer. "Blacklist Jenkins in every agency. Theft suspicion. Make it stick." The reply came quickly. "On it." Robert smirked at the screen. She'll never work again. Teach her a lesson. Evening deepened, the oil fields outside glowing under floodlights. Robert dined alone in the vast hall, silver clinking on china. The meal tasted victory, steak rare, wine vintage. But midway, his phone buzzed. Hospital again. "Mr. Harlan, your mother's bills." He silenced it, tossing the device aside. Later. Always later. Family was weakness. Evelyn's frailty a reminder of his own mortality. She'll manage. He wandered to the study, safe now locked tight. The spot where Sarah fell still bore a faint scuff on the rug. Should have fired her outright. Instead, suspension. A ploy to watch her squirm. He upped the ante. Called the agency, voice laced with threat. "Hold off on her job. She's under investigation. My word against hers. Who are you going to believe?" The agency head stammered. "Of course, Mr. Harlan." Power coursed through him, intoxicating. "A rich man like me? I own the narrative." Night fell. Robert in his robe, scrolling security feeds on his tablet. No sign of intrusion. But paranoia whispered, what if she talks? Sues? He drafted an email to a private investigator. Tail Jenkins. Dig dirt. Sent. Now man. Nah, smart. In bed, the mansion's silence amplified his thoughts. Arrogance masked the cracks. Loneliness creeping in. Doubts about Evelyn nibbling at edges. No, I'm right. He slept fitfully. Dreams of leaking rigs and vanishing fortunes. Morning brought fresh escalation. Robert summoned the staff again, this time with docked payslips. For security lapses. Blame the thief. Grumbles rose, but he quashed them. Loyalty or the door. His Niao man peeked at lunch with associates, regaling them. Caught her cold. Prove my point. Hire cheap, regret deep. Laughter echoed, bolstering his ego. But in quiet moments, as he stared at old photos, Evelyn Young, smiling. A twinge surfaced. What if? He shoved it down, pouring another drink. No weaknesses. The mansion, once a fortress, now pulsed with tension. Staff tiptoeing around his wrath. Robert's actions rippled outward. Whispers in Houston's elite circles. Sarah's name tarnished. He reveled in it, blind to the storm brewing. I've got this locked down. Arrogance blinded him further, each step digging his hole deeper. The day waned. Robert in his room, tablet glowing. A new camera feed. From the hospital? No, just paranoia. He zoomed on the empty study, safe and sound. But unease lingered, a crack in his armor. Sarah's apartment felt smaller that night, the walls closing in like the doubt swirling in her mind. She paced the worn linoleum kitchen floor, the bandage on her wrist itching under the dim bulb. Etta slept soundly in the next room, her breathing a rhythmic anchor. But Sarah's thoughts raced wild. The hospital called again today. Evelyn's surgery. Tomorrow. No payment. No procedure. The words from the nurse echoed, cold and final. She sank into a chair, pulling out her phone. The screen glowed with the hospital's number, dialed earlier in secret. Critical. Heart failing. The family hasn't responded. Sarah's fingers trembled as she scrolled to the photo. Evelyn and Grandma, frozen in time. She helped us once. Now it's my turn. But how? Robert's trap loomed in memory. The safe, cash exposed like bait. If I touch it, I'm the thief he says I am. Morning broke with relentless Texas heat, humidity clinging like regret. Sarah boarded the bus to the estate, suspended, but drawn back by a pull she couldn't ignore. The agency had stalled. Footage coming soon. Too late for Evelyn. She slipped through the service entrance, uniform on, blending into the shadows. The staff nodded warily, whispers trailing. Harlan's on the warpath! The mansion pulsed with tension, cameras whirring louder, staff tiptoeing like ghosts. Sarah cleaned the study again, heart pounding as she eyed the safe. Still cracked, cash untouched since the accusation. Robert's voice boomed from somewhere upstairs, barking orders at the butler. He's distracted. Now or never. She glanced at the door, breath shallow, not stealing, borrowing for good. But the line blurred in her mind. She reached out, hand hovering. Lord, forgive me if this is wrong. Fingers brushed the bundles, crisp, heavy with implication. She counted quickly. Enough for the surgery, maybe more. Tucking them into her apron pocket, the weight felt like chains. Just pay the bill anonymously. Return it somehow. But logic screamed. He'll know. Cameras everywhere. Slipping out to the garden, Sarah hid behind the shed, phone in hand. She navigated the hospital's online portal, fingers flying. Anonymous donation, she typed, attaching the funds via a prepaid card app she'd set up weeks ago for church tithes. Untraceable? I hope so. The confirmation pinged. Payment received. Surgery proceeding. Relief washed over her, mixed with terror. Evelyn saved. But me? Back inside, the mansion felt like a cage. Robert's footsteps thundered down the hall. "Where's the new footage?" he yelled into his phone. Sarah froze in the kitchen, scrubbing a counter that didn't need it. He burst in, eyes wild. "You Jenkins! What are you doing here?" "Collecting my check, sir," she lied smoothly, voice even. Her pocket burned with the secret. "Don't look guilty." Robert scanned her, suspicion etched deep. "The agency said you're suspended. Get out before I call the cops again." He turned away but paused. "And if that money's gone?" The threat hung unfinished. Sarah nodded, slipping past him. His gaze bored into her back. He suspects. Outside, the gates loomed, freedom tainted. On the bus home, paranoia set in. Every glance from passengers felt accusatory. What if he checks the safe now? Call the police? Her wrist ached anew, a reminder of his grip. Home brought no solace. Etta stirred. "You look troubled, child." Sarah forced a hug. "Just work, Mama. Pray for me." She checked the news app. Nothing yet. But the hospital update came. "Surgery successful. The patient is stable." Tears pricked her eyes. Worth it, even if I lose everything. Night deepened. Sarah tossing in bed. Dreams haunted. Robert's face twisted, handcuffs clicking. Etta alone. She woke sweating, checking her phone. Voicemail from the agency. "Harlan wants a meeting. Tomorrow. Bring proof of innocence." Proof? The cameras will show me taking it now. Panic clawed her chest. "Don Vao Zhuang Chung. No job, no money for Mama's meds. Church folks will hear the rumors." Dawn broke gray, storm clouds gathering. Sarah dressed slowly. The stolen, borrowed, cash's absence a ghost in her mind. Return it? Too late. She knelt, praying fervently. "Lord, I did it for good. Shield me." But resolve wavered. Was it right? Or just desperate? The bus to the estate dragged, each stop amplifying dread. Gates opened like jaws. Robert waited in the foyer, arms crossed, staff lurking. "Well?" he demanded. Sarah met his eyes. "I didn't take it before. But now..." Words caught. Confess? Run? Tension peaked as he led her to the study. The safe gaped. Empty. His face paled. "You did it?" Accusations flew, but Sarah stood silent, cornered. No way out. The police siren wailed in the distance, summoned already. Her world narrowed to this moment. Dawn Epp, alone, the weight of her choice crushing. But in her pocket, the hospital receipt burned. A lifeline. A bomb. Wait. Not yet. She braced, heart hammering as cuffs loomed. Road's end. Or is it? The study door slammed open, Robert's face a mask of thunder as he advanced on Sarah. "You!" he roared, jabbing a finger at her chest. The safe gaped empty behind him, bundles gone like a ghost's whisper. Staff hovered in the hallway, faces pale, the air thick with impending doom. Sarah stood rooted, her apron still dusted from the morning's feigned chores, heart hammering against her ribs. This is it. No turning back. Robert's breath came hot and ragged. "I knew you'd come back. Suspended means gone, but here you are, thriving again." He grabbed the phone from the desk, dialing with furious taps. "Police?" "Yes, the thief returned. Send someone now." His eyes locked on hers, triumphant yet wild. Got her. Finally, Sarah didn't flinch. She reached into her pocket slowly, pulling out a folded paper, the hospital receipt. Her hand trembled slightly, but her voice cut clear. "Mr. Harlan, wait." He paused, phone midway to his ear. "What? More lies?" Sarah unfolded the paper, holding it out. "I took the money, but not for me." The room fell silent, staff inching closer. Robert snatched the receipt, eyes scanning the lines. Houston General, Evelyn Harlan, surgery payment, anonymous donor. His face drained of color, the phone slipping from his grip to clatter on the floor. What? How? Sarah's chin lifted, eyes steady despite the storm inside. Tell him. All of it. Your mother's been calling. Hospital bills piling up. Heart failure. Surgery needed yesterday. You ignored the calls, but I didn't. I paid them. With your trap money. Robert staggered back, leaning against the desk. His mind reeled. Evelyn, frail and forgotten in that sterile room. Surgery? When? Flashes of unanswered voicemails haunted him. You had no right. No right? Sarah's voice rose, edged with years of swallowed pain. She was dying, sir. Alone. I couldn't let that happen. The staff murmured, shock rippling through them. The cook's hand flew to her mouth. Robert's knees buckled slightly. He gripped the desk edge, knuckles white. She stole to save Mother? Impossible. But the receipt stared back, irrefutable, time-stamped, amount exact. Sarah stepped forward, her presence filling the room like quiet thunder. But there's more. She pulled the faded photo from her wallet, holding it up. The image trembled in the light. 2 women, one black, one white, arms linked, smiling under a Texas oak in the 1950s. This is your mother, Evelyn, and my grandmother, Ruby Jenkins. Best friends, back when the world said they couldn't be. Robert's breath hitched. He took the photo with shaking hands, eyes widening. Mother. Young, laughing. With her? Memories surged. Evelyn's old stories of a dear friend from childhood, hushed tales of helping a black family during hard times, defying segregation's grip. Ruby. She mentioned Ruby. Saved her from eviction once, after Father's business failed. His voice cracked, the photo blurring through sudden tears. All these years, I buried it. Like I buried her. Sarah nodded, her own eyes glistening. They supported each other. Crossed lines no one else would. Grandma always said Evelyn was family. Real family, not blood. The words landed like blows, shattering Robert's walls. He sank into the chair, the photo clutched to his chest. Sobs racked his frame, deep and guttural, a dam breaking after decades. Blind. So blind. Accused her, hurt her, when she carried our history. The staff watched, frozen. The butler stepped forward hesitantly. Sir, but Robert waved him off, head bowed. I grabbed you, called you thief, because of, what? My fears? My hate? He looked up, face crumpled, aged 10 years in moments. Sarah stood tall, compassion softening her gaze. He sees now. Finally, police sirens wailed closer, cutting the air. Robert jolted, grabbing the phone. False alarm! Don't come! He hung up, turning to Sarah. Why? After what I did? She touched her bandaged wrist lightly. Because hate doesn't win if kindness fights back. Your mama saved mine once. The circle closes. He rose unsteadily, handing back the photo. The money. Keep it. No, more. I'll repay 100-fold. But Sarah shook her head. Not about money, about the truth. The sirens faded, tension easing like a storm passing. Robert's shoulders slumped, defeat and dawn mingling in his eyes. Everything I built, on sand, prejudices, walls, gone. Sarah turned to the staff. Y'all heard. It's over. They nodded, relief washing their faces. The cook hugged her quickly. Brave girl, brave. Robert watched, a stranger to himself. Hero. She's the hero. The revelation hung heavy, a shockwave reshaping the room. The hidden bond, the saved life, his shattered ego. As Sarah exhaled, the weight lifting, Robert whispered, Forgive me. She paused, then nodded once. Not for him. For Evelyn. For Grandma. The mansion, once a prison, breathed freer. But the true healing? Just beginning. Robert's sobs echoed in the study, raw and unchecked, his broad shoulders heaving as he clutched the desk for support. The photo slipped from his fingers, fluttering to the rug like a fallen leaf. The staff stood frozen in the doorway, their faces a mosaic of shock and tentative relief. The cook's eyes wide, the butler's mouth agape. Sarah remained still, her arms crossed over her apron, the receipt now crumpled in Robert's fist. Let it sink in, she thought, her own pulse steadying after the storm of revelation. The air hung heavy, scented with polished wood and the faint tang of his scotch. He lifted his head slowly, eyes red-rimmed, meeting hers. I called the police, accused you, hurt you. His voice broke, gaze dropping to her bandaged wrist. The bruise peeked from under the gauze, a purple accusation of his own making. What have I done? The question looped in his mind, a hammer striking anvil. Decades of walls, built from betrayals, fortified by bias, crumbled in that gaze. He pushed himself upright, legs unsteady, and turned to the staff. All of you out! Now! They scattered like startled birds, doors clicking shut behind them. Alone with Sarah, Robert paced a tight circle, his polished shoes scuffing the rug. The money, it's nothing. But, Mother, surgery. He trailed off, sinking into the chair again. His hand shook as he pulled out his phone, dialing the hospital with frantic taps. This is Robert Harlan. My mother, Evelyn. Status? The nurse's voice filtered through, calm and clinical. Successful. She's resting. The anonymous payment saved her. He hung up, phone clattering to the desk. Tears streamed anew, carving paths down his weathered cheeks. Saved by the woman I branded a thief. The irony twisted like a knife. He looked at Sarah, truly seeing her. The quiet strength in her stance, the compassion in her eyes despite the pain he'd inflicted. I was wrong, blind. My prejudices, they poisoned everything. His confession hung, vulnerable and raw. Admit it all. No more hiding. Sarah nodded once, her voice soft, but firm. Yes, sir. You were. She didn't gloat. No triumph in her tone. Just truth. He sees now. That's enough for starters. Robert rose, crossing to the intercom. His finger hovered, then pressed. Everyone, to the foyer, immediately. His command lacked its usual bark, edged instead with tremor. The staff reassembled below, murmurs buzzing like bees. Robert descended the stairs, Sarah trailing a step behind. He faced them, chin trembling. I accused Sarah Jenkins of theft, grabbed her, slandered her, based on nothing but my own fears and hate. The word stuck in his throat, but he forced it out. Gasps rippled through the group. The gardener shifted, eyes wide. She didn't steal. She saved my mother's life with the money I left as a trap. He held up the receipt, voice cracking. She's no thief. She's a hero. The cook's hand flew to her chest. Lord have mercy. Robert turned to Sarah, bowing his head slightly. I apologize. Publicly. Profoundly. He extended a hand, not to grab, but to shake. Sarah hesitated, then took it, her grip firm. Forgiveness starts here. The staff erupted in quiet applause, tension dissolving like mist. Robert waved them silent. No more NDAs. No docked pay. And Sarah, you're not suspended. You're promoted. Estate manager, effective now. Her eyes widened, but she nodded. Not what I expected, but earned. He continued, voice gaining strength. I'll clear your name. Call the agencies, the police. Tell them the truth. My mistake. He dialed his lawyer next, speaker on. Drop everything on Jenkins. It was a misunderstanding, my fault. Issue a statement. False accusation retracted. The lawyer stammered agreement. Robert hung up, exhaling deeply. Consequences. Face them. His empire felt smaller now, the mansion's grandeur hollow. Power means nothing without humanity. Sarah watched, a quiet vindication blooming in her chest. Min on. Finally, the bruise on her wrist throbbed less, as if the apology soothed it. Staff approached her, hugs and handshakes flowing. "Knew you were innocent," the butler murmured. She smiled faintly. "Did you? But thank you." Robert retreated to his office, alone with the photo. He traced Evelyn's young face, regretting flooding. Mother, alive because of her. He wired funds immediately, 10 times the stolen amount to Sarah's account, with a note, "For your family and the church." Then, to the hospital. Full coverage, plus endowment for elder care. By evening, news trickled. Agencies buzzing with retractions. Robert's statement circulating in elite circles. Whispers shifted. Harlan humbled. He sat by the window, oil fields darkening outside. How Qua lost face, but gained truth. A call to Evelyn. "Mother, I'm coming. And bringing a friend." Sarah left the estate at dusk, gates opening without resistance. On the bus, her phone pinged, transfer confirmation. Tears welled, not from pain, but release. Vindicated. And her saved. Home waited, Etta's light glowing. "Tell Mama." The circle turns. The mansion settled, quieter now. Robert's arrogance lay shattered, replaced by raw humility. Sarah walked freer. Name cleared, path ahead brighter. But the deepest change? In his heart, seeds of redemption taking root. Weeks blurred into a quiet rhythm at the Harlan estate, the Texas sun softening as autumn whispered through the oaks. Robert moved slower now, his once brisk strides tempered by introspection. He sat in the study often, the photo of Evelyn and Ruby propped on his desk like a talisman. Mornings brought calls to the hospital. Evelyn recovering, her voice stronger each day. "Bring that Jenkins girl," she'd say, a smile in her tone. Robert would chuckle, the sound foreign in his throat. "Girl? She's a woman who schooled me." Sarah took to her new role as estate manager with steady grace, her office a converted sunroom overlooking the gardens. She reviewed schedules, her pen scratching notes on fair wages and staff breaks. The bruise had faded to a faint shadow, but the lesson lingered. Dignity ain't given, it's claimed. Staff gathered around her now, not with whispers, but open faces. The cook shared recipes over coffee. The gardeners asked her opinion on plantings. "Feels different here," the butler confided one afternoon, polishing silver with less haste. Sarah nodded. Change starts small. Robert joined her in the garden one crisp morning, coffee mugs steaming in the air. He handed her a folder. Scholarship fund details, named for Ruby and Evelyn. For black students in Houston, STEM, like oil tech, or whatever they dream. His eyes avoided hers, still shadowed by remorse. Sarah flipped through, her fingers pausing on the endowment amount. Millions. Generous, sir. But why? He stared at the horizon, oil rigs pumping in the distance. Because I built this on blindness, prejudices that cost lives, almost mothers. Your act, it showed me legacy ain't money. It's mercy. She closed the folder, meeting his gaze. Mercy and truth. Hiding hate doesn't make it gone. Robert nodded, swallowing hard. She's right. Always was. They walked the paths, leaves crunching underfoot. He shared stories. Evelyn's quiet defiance in segregated Texas, helping Ruby's family with food during lean years. She never told me the full tale. Ashamed, maybe. Sarah touched the photo in her pocket. Or protecting you from the world's ugliness. Back inside, Evelyn arrived that weekend, wheeled in by nurses, her frail form wrapped in a quilt. The foyer filled with staff, a makeshift welcome. She spotted Sarah immediately, eyes lighting up. "Ruby's kin. Come here, child." Sarah knelt, Evelyn's hand clasping hers, papery but warm. "You saved me, like I saved your grandma once." Tears flowed freely. Evelyn's, Sarah's, even Robert's in the corner, wiping his face with a sleeve. Over tea in the sunroom, Evelyn spun yarns of their youth, sneaking meetings by the creek, sharing dreams across color lines. The world said no, but heart said yes. Robert listened, head bowed. All this time, I carried the hate she fought. The lesson crystallized. Prejudices poison generations, but kindness bridges them. Evelyn squeezed his hand. Learn from it, son. Don't repeat. Sarah watched, her heart full. By Hawk, integrity shines brightest in darkness. She excused herself, stepping to the garden. The air carried harvest scents, a promise of renewal. Her phone buzzed. Church folks thanking her for the donation Robert wired anonymously. Ripples. Evenings brought joint dinners, Robert at the head, Evelyn beside him, Sarah across. Conversations flowed, about family, forgiveness, futures. Robert announced changes, diversity training for staff, partnerships with Black-owned businesses for the estate's supplies. No more blind spots. Staff cheered quietly, the mansion's atmosphere lighter, walls echoing laughter instead of orders. One Sunday, Sarah drove them to her church, the modest building alive with gospel hymns. Evelyn sang along, voice quavering but joyful. Robert sat stiff at first, then relaxed, the music seeping in. Afterwards, congregants approached, handshakes for the oil man who saw the light. He blushed, mumbling thanks. Sarah smiled inwardly. Humility suits him. Months passed. The scholarship launched with a quiet ceremony. Recipients, young black teens from South Houston, stood proud, Evelyn cutting the ribbon. Robert spoke haltingly. I learned late, judge hearts, not skin. This fund honors that. Applause rose, Sarah clapping hardest. Ket Thuk? No, beginning. Evelyn passed peacefully that winter, her funeral a blend of worlds, oil tycoons beside church elders. Robert eulogized. She taught quiet strength. Sarah showed it. Graveside, he hugged Sarah. Thank you. For everything. She nodded. Family helps family. The estate bloomed anew. Community events in the gardens. Staff empowered. Sarah led with compassion, her story whispered as legend. Robert traveled less, mentored more. His empire shifted to philanthropy. Legacy redeemed. One evening, Sarah sat on her porch, now in a modest home Robert helped buy, watching stars prick the sky. Etta beside her, quilt shared. Proud of you, baby. Sarah squeezed her hand. Learned from the best. The moral echoed. Prejudice is blind, but truth and kindness illuminate. In healing others, we heal ourselves. The Harlan name endured, not for oil, but for bridges built. Sarah's quiet heroism rippled outward, a testament. One act can shatter chains, forge futures. And in Texas, nights, winds carried whispers of change, enduring, hopeful. In the end, this story reminds us that prejudice can blind us to the true kindness in others, but integrity and compassion have the power to shatter those barriers, heal old wounds, and build a legacy of real humanity. What about you? Have you ever faced unfair judgment or witnessed an act of unexpected grace? Share your thoughts and stories in the comments below. I'd love to hear them and connect with you all. Thank you so much for watching. If this moved you, hit that like button and subscribe for more inspiring tales. See you in the next one.